And we are about to start our live stream interview with Jamie Rosenberry, our case manager. And then after her, we'll be interviewing Derek Kuykendall, our executive director. And I'm starting a few minutes, well, a half a minute early, just so we can check the sound and to make sure that the lighting's good. It sounds like the sound is good. All right, so we are ready to go. If you're tuning in to view it, would you consider sharing the Facebook live stream to your page? Maybe text it to your friends or family, someone who's also interested in the work of Providence Network or who cares about the issue of homelessness and addiction, domestic violence in the city of Denver. So it's a great opportunity to donate awareness as we jump into this time. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. It's 3 o'clock, and I am excited to talk to Jamie, our case manager at Providence Network. We're going to go ahead and start with this question. How does casework help our residents exit homelessness, addiction, and domestic violence to lead flourishing lives?
It's a great question, Jonathan. So casework is primarily about connecting people with resources that are needed to help them stay in recovery, to exit domestic violence, to to come off the streets. So case management is about providing necessary resources, support accessing those resources, being a listening ear, providing guidance. It's really client driven, so that means that it's centered on the residents' unique goals and needs, and it's centered on kind of meeting them where they're at. And because everyone that comes into our program has very different needs, very different situations that they're coming out of. And so it's really about finding out what their goals are, what's going to make them successful in recovery, what's going to make them stay housed, what's going to help them stay sober, what's going to help them transition out of a domestic violence situation into long-term work and healthy living. And so it's about providing access to resources that support their mental and emotional well-being, employment, if they have some health needs, making sure that those are met. And it's really about supporting a resident's path towards change.
Well, that's wonderful. So the phrase that stuck out to me as you described what a case manager, caseworker does is connecting with resources, kind of connecting with the next steps. So our housing program, we have a first step. We have a first step program. It's our 3 first step homes: Joy House, Providence House, and Silver Lining House. And then we have next step housing, which is long-term affordable housing. And so I like that image of like stepping along their path of recovery to flourishing. And it sounds like you're really a connector to help do that.
Absolutely.
And so I work in development. Jonathan Romig, I don't even know if I introduced myself. I'm the development manager. But my job is to connect people outside of our organization with Providence Network, right? Through funding, through awareness, through learning about what we're doing here so that they can support it. So if that's you and you want to donate financially, you could give by visiting providencenetwork.org/donate or the table, our monthly donor community. But I want to jump into our next question to Jamie Rosenberry. We're interviewing our case manager. What's your background, Jamie? Like, what got you into casework? How did you get here to Providence Network?
It's a great question. I went to Biola University, a Christian university in California, and I studied intercultural studies. So that's kind of the major you take if you want to get into ministry and overseas or cross-cultural missions. So that's kind of where I thought my life would go. God had other plans, and I eventually found myself working for another organization here in town that works with people in addiction recovery and people that are exiting homelessness. And I was hired to be a job coach for folks who were exiting homelessness and addiction. And as I was working with them, I kind of realized that they needed extra support other than just, hey, let's work on a resume and here's how to apply for jobs. They needed support accessing work appropriate clothes, or if they were going into construction, tools, or maybe they needed some mental health care or some physical health care or access to food and hygiene products. So I just sort of began to integrate casework into my work with the folks I was job coaching, and providing additional support and resources for them. And then that kind of led me into getting my master's degree in social work. And so I did an internship doing clinical case management at a local community mental health center here in Denver. And that also provided me with a lot of tools and resources to be able to be a better caseworker.
Oh, wonderful. That's interesting that it naturally progressed, that you were already helping people. You wanted to build, resumes, help get jobs, find the right, dress attire. And then you were like, hey, I seem pretty good at this. I want to do this as a career. And God kind of directed your steps in that whole process. And here you are at Providence Network. So that's wonderful. And quick trivia on you. You did a pretty interesting job in a prior career. Do you care to share what that was?
So I had two majors in college, and the other one was anthropology. And so as a sub-discipline of anthropology is archaeology. And so I was desperate for a job after I finished college, and that job hired me. So I ended up being an archaeologist for a year after I finished college. We
That's fantastic.
excavated a ceremonial and burial ground in Huntington Beach, California. It was very, very educational and very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you do this line of work now. But...
Me too. I like working with people who are alive.
That's right. The living.
Yes.
A little bit more hope, I guess. Well, fascinating. So, but you have a long history of caring about people and working, with the people that we serve here, those that are coming out of homelessness, domestic violence, and addiction. So that's wonderful. Now, I admit, I don't know a lot about what it means to be a case manager. I'm learning. You have a social work degree, social work degree. Yeah. And you're here, you're helping our people, but could you just define casework a little bit for, those that are new like me? And I know we kind of talked about connecting, but if you have any other elaborations that you want to share.
Yeah, and I'm going to look at my notes a little bit because I don't want to get off into the weeds here. And I also want to present a definition because I think we hear the term caseworker, case manager, and we maybe have different conceptions of what that looks like based on our personal experiences or someone else we know. So I just kind of wanted to kind of come at this from this is kind of a robust definition. So casework is a diverse set of interventions that help support a resident or a client in accessing social services that support their recovery and any life changes that they're trying to make. So these look like external resources. So that could be a job, food, hygiene, medical services, mental health services, parenting classes, maybe if there's something else that's unique to their situation they need to access. So those external resources, but also helping them access internal resources. So maybe they need to develop better communication skills or conflict management skills, or even kind of building some resilience and some coping skills, and helping them to look at being able to kind of self-reflect and go, hey, here are some changes that I need to make. Here's some ways that I need to grow and develop in my recovery or as an employee. And also one of the main roles of a caseworker is advocacy. So coming alongside a resident and really supporting their goals, and also helping them to feel heard and seen and supported in their experience of the program. And that can look very different for different people, but ultimately it's sort of advocating with and for them as they're accessing services and as they are participating in our programs.
That's wonderful. So I'm very interested by that advocacy aspect, and that you kind of tailor your approach to each individual program participant. And then, we have a whole slew of staff, almost 30 staff. I think we have about 17 full-time, 13 part-time. And you are kind of a bridge among them as well. Like, okay, so you could maybe, do you talk like to the counselor or to the live-in staff community member or the house director and help them? Because sometimes we can't communicate exactly what we need or want in the moment. And so it's helpful to have someone who can come alongside you and say, hey, I think what would really aid this individual in their recovery, their program is this thing. So I think that's wonderful. That you're able to do that. And yeah, when I think casework, I think like just legal services, right? But it sounds like what you're describing is much broader than that, much more deep.
Yes. Yeah. So it's anything, again, that facilitates that, that change or that goal that the resident is seeking. And it's really about holistic well-being. So that kind of ties in with Providence's goals that we don't just want somebody to walk out of our programs sober. We want them to be transformed, and we want them to flourish in their life outside of Providence Network, whenever, wherever they move on to from our programs, whenever they graduate. So it's really about helping them establish a sense of wellness, and what does that mean to be holistically well and to flourish in your life, in recovery, both inside the program and outside of it.
Yeah, we help with things like job skills and job development, but not necessarily what you would get if you went to an organization that's their primary focus, right? Is job development. We're going to help you. We're going to coach you. We're going to help you find that job, help you hold that job down. But we're focused more on those internal changes that lead to different circumstances, right? So one of our slogan at Providence Network is changing lives from the inside out. And you talked about both the external changes that you can make with a program participant, but also the internal changes, right? Those, how do I navigate this conflict, or how do I navigate this transition? Transitions are one of the most stressful life events you can go through. And if you're constantly in a state of transition because of homelessness or addiction or domestic violence, like you need a hand to get out of that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jamie, for being the case worker, the case manager who helps people do that, who helps our residents. And I want to say thank you to our donors. If you're watching this, maybe you're watching it live or you're watching it after the fact, thank you for coming alongside us through your financial giving, because that makes it possible to do what Jamie does and what I do and what the staff does here with our residents. If you're interested in donating live or after the fact, you can visit providencenetwork.org/donate, or you could join our monthly donor community that gets behind the scenes videos every month, providencenetwork.org/thetable. So we're really grateful for all of our donors, and we're hoping to end 2023 strong. So if you would consider donating, we'd be very grateful. But let's continue the conversation with Jamie. So what are some of the types of casework you are encountering here at Providence Network?
Yeah, so again, we have such a diverse range of residents here at Providence Network. So we have moms with kids of all different ages. We have single men, we have single women. Then we have people that have graduated our programs who are living at Next Step Housing, and a lot of those are families. Some of them are single, some of them are married without kids. So we have a lot of different types of needs. So there is no one size fits all, but I would say a lot of what I do is work with folks on employment. So looking for a job. And here at Providence Network, we like to advocate for our residents getting initially what we call a recovery job, meaning they're working, but their primary focus is on their recovery. So maybe it's a job, you're working at Starbucks or a local grocery store, you're showing up to work, you're paying your bills, but it's not your career, right? And then after a while, we work with folks to kind of move into that long-term job that's really going to support them adequately once they graduate. So it's not just about getting that recovery job, it's also about, hey, how can we help you find that next step? Maybe it's a career change. Maybe you need some job training so that you can move into that long-term job So when you graduate, you can pay all your bills and have a little left over, right? So I work with folks on that. I work with folks, women who are looking for childcare or support in their, parenting skills. Working with folks to access food resources, medical resources. Wow. A lot of folks who are coming out of homelessness haven't been to a doctor in a while, so I always advocate, hey, let's get yourself checked out. So that's kind of the big picture. And then just journeying with people through their program and all the little bumps that come along the way as it relates to their long-term recovery and their long-term goals.
Yeah, I think, what you said about the job, recovery job was really interesting. I know that sometimes if we have a resident come in and maybe there is stresses associated with their employment, right? Like their boss or their work environment is increasing their stress level, that can lead to a relapse.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it has happened. And so when that individual comes back, we want to sit down and talk with them and say, okay, that job's not worth a relapse. Let's either find you a new job, or let's talk about how we can change the situation at work so it's life-giving, so that it's a healthy place for you. Definitely for that first year, right? Recovery job. And then that second year, thinking more long-term, right? And that's typically when one of our residents will get connected with a workforce development program. They'll begin to get the skills, and some of our people are coming, they have a college degree or some other certificate or education, and so it's getting back into those fields that they were already a part of. And so I love that you're probably not bored with your job ever, but because it's all over the field, like just dealing with different people on different needs, and that's one of the joys of my job is I get to meet all the different types of people and donors that support Providence Network. So if that's you, thank you for donating, thank you for being a part of Providence Network, and if you haven't partnered with us financially, here are some ways you can visit our website and give that way as well. Also, if you have a question, if you're tuning into this live stream and you have a question that you want to ask our caseworker, please drop it in the comments. Please share this video on your Facebook timeline so that others can tune in as well. You can donate awareness that way. And let's go to our next question. And Jadan will let me know if we have any questions in the comments. Can you share a story of how your casework has helped a resident or two?
So we had a mom come into one of our programs, who was newly immigrated to the United States. She came in legally. She had, a legal work permit, and, she had done a little bit of work in her home country, but it was under very, hurtful and harmful circumstances. And so she didn't have a paradigm for what it looks like to work in the United States with all of the protections that were offered, from predatory or hurtful bosses, right? Aren't we glad that we have those, right? That we can feel safe in our work environments. And she didn't know how to apply for a job, and she didn't know anything about resumes, and she didn't know what opportunities were out there. And she also, I think, was struggling with whether she could even have a job. I think physically she was struggling with some physical health things, and so as I worked with her, I was able to refer her to a local faith-based job training program called Street to Life Print Shop. And they are screen printing business, and they provide job training to folks who are just needing some very beginning job skills. And so she worked with them for a while and had a fantastic experience, felt very confident in her ability to go land a job. But again, she didn't really know where to go and how to make that happen. So I worked with her and referred her to another kind of long-term intensive job training program at a local thrift store chain. And so she completed their job training program successfully and was hired on as like a full-time worker.
Wow.
So to see that transformation in her from, I don't know if I could work, I don't know where and how to work, to somebody who is showing up every day, 5 days a week, leaving the house at 7:30 to go take the bus to her job, and is excited, to have a paycheck and support her family. it's been cool to see that transformation.
That's awesome. Woohoo. I love that story of just feeling unsure of herself, not being, not knowing how to take that next step. And then you were able to come alongside her. You don't take the steps for her.
No.
No, not at all. But you help kind of say, okay, let's take a step right there. And let's take a step right there. And pretty soon you're like walking a mile, right? And you're up and running, and she has this job and is doing well. So that's wonderful. And I saw Street to Life pop up on our social media, but now knowing a little bit more of what they do, that's cool as well.
Yeah.
So let's look at this next question. So we're kind of heading towards an end. We've had a wonderful conversation with Jamie. And if there's anything you want to jump in and add, feel free to. So we are doing this to raise awareness, to raise funds for Providence Network. And I love advocating for the needs of Providence Network for us financially. I think we're a great investment. But I want to ask Jamie why she thinks it's worth donating to Providence Network. Why is investing in our work financially a good investment?
Yeah, so I've been with Providence for 3 years, so I feel like I kind of have that perspective of seeing, seeing what it looks like when people come into our programs and when they graduate or leave our programs. So I would say that it's worth investing in Providence Network because of the ripple effects that you have on a changed life. So it's not just changing one individual life. It's that person experiences change, and that changes their children's lives and the lives of the people around them, their neighbors, their coworkers, their members of their extended family. And so when we see people enter into recovery and they are pursuing really amazing goals and they are flourishing and they're self-sufficient, we see that has an enormous impact on the people and the lives around them.
Wow.
That their families and their friends and their neighbors and their communities are forever changed because of that one life. So I live in Next Step Housing with people who have graduated our program, so I get to kind of live in the ripple on a daily basis and experience life alongside these people that have pursued significant life change through Providence Network. And so I get to have them lend me sugar when I've run out, and I get to have them, interact with my daughter, and we get to be neighbors, and we get to pray for each other and help each other out when, we have car issues or other life issues. And so I am grateful that I get to live in the ripples of these changed lives.
Live in the ripple.
Yeah, and to see how these changed lives have changed a whole community and their families.
That's so powerful. I love that image of like throwing a stone into a pond and it ripples out. And we've talked about generational change at Providence Network, and that when you change the life of a mom, you also change the life of her child, which changes a trajectory, right? And even a 1 or 2 degree shift over the course of a lifetime can make a huge impact.
Absolutely.
And so every dollar given doesn't go to waste. Makes a significant impact. Like for example, $100 gift could help fund a session of group counseling at one of our homes at Joy House. And the opportunity to work through some of those traumas, to find healing, like that produces good fruit. That produces good results. And so any gift of any amount is greatly appreciated by us at Providence Network. You mentioned, life in the ripple, how you pray for one another. So a question as we close our time with you, Jamie, before Derek comes in: how can we pray for you and the work of case management at Providence Network?
I would say the thing that I am always in need of is wisdom. I think of that verse in James where, says, I'm going to butcher this because I've memorized it so long ago. I don't have all the words down, but that's this idea that if you ask God for wisdom, he will give it, and he will give a lot of it. And so, I take him up on that offer. So I always am in need of wisdom because we have such diverse needs in Providence. And we have people coming out of unmanageable trauma, and people who have, it's kind of like, where do you start sometimes with working with folks? They have so many needs. And so just asking for wisdom to know what is the wise approach in this situation with this individual,
right.
And how can I, be a good example of Christ to them, and also help support them in their goals, and help them find that path towards significant life change.
Yeah, towards flourishing. We start at one place, and part of our job at Providence Network is to give people a vision of like what it means to flourish, right? What it means to live a healthy, full life for them and their families. But getting from that place of coming out of homelessness, living in one of our homes, to that place of flourishing, it takes wisdom, right? That's how you bridge the gap between what could be and what is. And so thank you, Jamie, for helping bridge that gap. Right? Yeah. Bridging the gap among the staff members as they interact with residents, and for the residents themselves as they navigate our complex world and try to figure out what it means to live a flourishing life. So please pray for Jamie, for caseworker, for those that are receiving her services, her help, and for Providence Network. We would really appreciate that as well. And you can pray for our fundraising efforts too as we try to finish our year well. All right. Well, Jamie, thank you for your time here. Any last words or?
Thank you. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed this conversation. So thank you.
Well, really appreciate your time.
Thank
you. I will get Derek to comment in just a moment here. All right.
Thank you.
So if you're just tuning in, you could donate awareness by sharing it on Facebook. I'm going to wave Derek in, our executive director. You could share a link on your Facebook page. You could visit our website to donate. If you want to join our monthly donor community, you could join the table. You're good over there. Welcome, Derek. Good to see you again.
Hi, Jonathan.
Derek was waiting in the wings out there to come in and continue our conversation. So we did a live stream before in September, which was really fun, but it was very short segments. And so it just flew by for me, but I'm really appreciating the opportunity to talk a little bit more in depth with Jamie, our case manager, and now with Derek, our executive director. So we're going to ask kind of the big, what's unique about Providence Network and our transformational housing program, and then we'll scale back a little bit and go a little bit more in depth. But I want to start with this question. What is unique about Providence Network and our transformational housing program?
I think it starts with, we've been around for 35 years. And so I'd like to think that lends some credibility, some long-standing in the city of Denver. And we've developed over those years and experiences kind of three distinctives, I think, that set us apart in this space in Denver that is serving those coming out of homelessness and overcoming addictions and domestic violence. And those three things are long-term. We have a long-term approach. Our programs are 2 years plus. If you graduate, you can move into one of our long-term apartment complexes. And that's really that perspective of that we're in this for the long haul, kind of like a family member would be. I think the next thing is we try to merge a relational approach with our residents, married with what we call best practices of clinical counseling, case management. You just heard from Jamie and all the value she brings, and a professionalism that makes sure that our residents are getting the best care that they can. But it's not shift work. It's not a sterile facility. It's a home that looks like a family should live here. And so there's a very relational mentoring approach because our staff live in the homes with the residents. That's really unusual. And I think the third is our Christian faith-based orientation. Our staff that are attracted to us, I think, really see themselves as following a calling to this work. And so I'd say those are our three distinctives that make what we call transformational housing possible.
Yeah, I've enjoyed getting to know these three distinctives over the last year and a half that I've been part of development, and seeing the 2-year commitment. I think it really does make a difference, and I like telling people about that because it gives just breathing room to our program. That it's not like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. You're in, you're out. It's 2 years. Like, this is a long time, and it's really a whole life reset. And one of the ways we do that is, that highly relational approach, that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, staff live in the homes model, that I think makes a huge difference. And, fully living out our beliefs and our identity as a Christian organization, I think that's wonderful too and makes a huge difference. So I've enjoyed being a part of this, but I've only been here a year and a half, and I want to hear a little bit about your story and how you got here. So what's your background, Derek? I'm always kind of catching bits and pieces of it, but for our audience, those tuning in, what prepared you to become the executive director of Providence Network? And you've been here for how many years now?
16 years.
16 years. That's a wonderful, we were talking about the long haul.
Longevity.
Longevity. You got it. You're embodying it. But what's your background? What prepared you to be the executive director?
Well, I'll try to go quickly because there are a lot of layers to it, but I think it started for me. I'm a native, and I grew up just outside of Boulder County, East Boulder County. And so I was kind of a rural, suburban kid. But from very early on, I loved basketball, and I played on a club team in the 80s. This was early club era. And what it did is it took me to the city, to Denver, and I got to play against kids and teams in neighborhoods that I otherwise would never have gotten the chance to interface with. And it just really opened my eyes to a world outside of my bubble that I was growing up in. And it just was really a calling that I felt at an early age. So that led to going to college and studying sociology and the disciplines of race, class, gender, and how that stratifies our culture and our society. And that was just very interesting to me. After college, I went to work for Young Life at the Dale House Project in Colorado Springs, which was working with teenagers coming out of prison and living in community, similar to what we do here. And that really captured my heart. And after that, I got married, lived in Portland, Oregon, and got a master's of social work degree from Portland State. And that led me on this professional track of working with families. Did that for a few years and then moved back to Colorado and worked for the Lakewood Housing Authority, running family self-sufficiency programs for about 6 years. And then this opportunity came up, and the way I saw it was a perfect combination of my passions, my past experience of urban ministry and social work, and I was able to become the next executive director of Providence Network. And I feel like those experiences have really led me to the place where I am right now, of living in that intersection of the world's greatest need, my greatest passion, and my experience base.
That's wonderful. I love hearing that. And I know you're a big fan of Boulder still to this day.
Go Buffs.
I love to hear about the football games and how it's going, and watch Derek root for the Buffs. So that's been fun this year especially. And it's neat to see the social work kind of come back around. So I feel like there's some parallels between you and Jamie and the things that she is helping people with.
Yeah, we want to make sure that our residents get the best care that they can. And so, the counseling and the case management, the job training, and all of that stuff is helping us achieve some of our goals in our work with people coming out of homelessness.
Right. And I've been impressed to kind of see how your focus, your knowledge, like deep knowledge of how a program like this should work has just been a benefit to the organization. Even since I've been here, I've seen it. So what does an executive director do? So Derek's my boss, so he tells me, kind of guides me and leads me. But like, what do you do beyond that throughout the organization?
Well, I think technically I am charged with executing the mission of the organization, and the mission of the organization is to heal from the inside out through Christian transformational housing communities. And so that's the mission. Now, how do you do that? Well, we come up with strategies on an annual basis to achieve that mission. And I think of my position as kind of a 50-50. 50% of my job is outward facing, and I spend a lot of time in the community trying to develop partnerships, meeting with donors, and meeting with service providers to make sure that we're creating a healthy kind of social fabric, both relationally, spiritually, and then self-sufficiency wise. And then the inward facing side is to lead all of our various departments. I mean, we are a $2.2 million nonprofit organization that has an HR department, counseling department, in-home staff, finance. And so I try to lead in all of those areas. And really what that means is my biggest job is to hire the right people and smart people, and ethical people. And so any success that we have, it's really that our staff are achieving our goals in those areas. So that's what I'm charged with, is let's make sure we hire really good people.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly a lot of responsibility, and you do a great job. And, I've enjoyed getting to work with all the different team members, right? We have 30 staff members and a mix of full-time and part-time staff members. And it's interesting to hear, you describe part of your job as really that bridge builder, right? Between outside world, inside world, hiring the right people, seeing some more overlap with our time with Jamie here as well. So, and if you would like to be a part of what we're doing, you can donate by visiting providencenetwork.org/donate. We are fundraising for our end of year efforts, but even if you watch this video in January, we could use your investment as we head into 2024. I want to take a moment and ask kind of the question. I feel like we did get into this a little bit about what's unique, but maybe if you're kind of to define the big picture of Providence Network, what makes us unique, who we are, how you like to introduce us as an organization to our donors.
Well, I think the city of Denver, if anybody's paying attention or has been in the city recently, it's evident the need is as high as it's ever been. And I think what we are trying to do is a lot of our partners in the city are really focused on the emergency care. How do we get people from the tents on Broadway into shelter? And this is really what Mayor Johnston's is focusing on right now. And so we need that effort to occur. Providence Network is probably the next rung up on this continuum upward of coming out of homelessness. After stability is achieved, basic needs are taken care of. When somebody's ready to take that next step and get the support and the accountability that they need to make some longer term changes, that's kind of where we come in. And we have 3 missional goals to our program that we talk about. The first is self-sufficiency. So this idea of kind of going from being dependent on others for you to be able to eat, have a roof over your head. How do we get you less dependent on that and have you be able to provide it for yourself? And so that's job training, that's job retention. And so our goal is to help someone that comes in at this level leave at this level in their self-sufficiency. The second one is social connection. We really believe that true healing comes through relationships and through being meaningfully connected to individuals and to groups. And so we measure and are succeeding at helping someone that comes at very low levels of attachment and connection to others, and when they leave, they're at a higher. And then the last one is that residents would increase their restorative beliefs. And this is kind of a broad category, but a lot of it means when many of our residents come in, they have they're in survival mode, and they're really just trying to survive, and it's a very self-consuming self-belief system. And so the goal is to help them grow from that to the point where they're actually giving back to the community. They are becoming the mentors or sponsors for others that are coming up behind them, and restoring their beliefs about the world and where they fit in that world. So that, I believe, sets us apart and kind of helps us define what does transformational housing look like to us.
That's fantastic. Those three missional goals: economic self-sufficiency, healthy connection, restorative beliefs. I've gotten to see those work out through our programming. Some of the graduation ceremonies that I've been to, so it's really this time of celebration that they completed the program, but also a sending off to this new chapter, continue the recovery efforts. But I've seen those three missional goals that set us apart as transformative, really on display, right? So if an individual in our program is able to save $1,000, we will give them a $1,000 check at the match it, because we want to incentivize economic self-sufficiency, right? Like setting apart, saving. That's been powerful to see that check presentation to our residents at Joy House and Providence House. And then that sense of healthy connection. Man, I got so many stories of people having relationships restored with family members that the bridge was completely burned. It was burned and buried and there was no bridge. And then they go through our program and we help them, our staff help them rebuild those bridges and reach out and take those healthy steps. And then restorative beliefs. Man, some of the people that come into our program, they've kind of begun to buy into some beliefs about themselves that are just very sad and condemning, right? Self-condemning. Shame. And when they come into our program, shame, there's a lot of trauma that's rooted in that. But when they leave at those graduation ceremonies, there's a sense of dignity, of hope. And that's something that they found within themselves and that they, their beliefs helped form. So that's been really powerful to be a part of and to see. And I really do see the transformation too. And I'm not on the program side, I'm on the development side, the outward facing, but it's been such an encouragement for me to see that. And you've gotten to see it for 16 years, so that's pretty cool. We talked about kind of what's unique about Providence Network, what makes us a transformational housing program. And if you want to participate in that, be a part of what we're doing, please consider donating financially as we finish up our year and head into 2024. That would make a huge difference to us. You could join our monthly donor community as well. And you give once a month, and then we send you a behind-the-scenes video. Let's take a moment and look back at the year that we just went through, 2023. What were some of the challenges we faced in 2023? We navigated what it means to be a faith-based nonprofit in the city of Denver.
Yeah, a few themes that have been consistent, but this year there were some spikes in it. Funding. We survived the pandemic era, and largely because our donors really stepped up to help us through that. And then there was a little bit of a cliff effect after that in 2023. So we did have some struggle early on financially. Staffing, that was another one. Coming out of the pandemic, we were like a lot of businesses and industry and other nonprofits, the Great Reset was still in effect. And so when we are down in staff, we are down in the number of people that we can serve because of our model, so dependent on our staff. And so that was tough early on in 2023. I would also say some of the crime and violence in the city impacted us directly. There were a number of encampments that were right next to some of our buildings. There were at least 2 homicides, gunshots that happened in the middle of the night, and that was quite traumatizing to our Joy House moms who were sharing the block with this. And and so I think a lot of the news stories that many people may hear about or read about were really hitting home to our community. And just to further this point, our staff and our residents were really reaching out to people in the encampments. I mean, they were trying to develop relationships so that maybe they could take a step that person had taken themselves. And it was really beautiful to see and hear the stories of that going on. And it just, I think, brought home even closer to us that we're walking on a razor's edge right now in the city in some ways, where we're both trying to help heal and provide safe spaces for people to do that, while right outside our doors, some of these traumatic incidents are happening. And so those are some of the challenges in the past year.
Yeah, I think we'll hear from the staff and we'll kind of tune into what they're experiencing in the homes, and I can testify to that. It has been a challenging year in many ways, emotionally, for many of our staff members living so close in proximity to some of the encampments and other things that have happened there.
Well, yeah, it is triggering because many of our people came from that. And so they're stuck in this awkward, seeing that, and it can be triggering to me, but also I am so grateful that I'm not in that life anymore, but I feel guilty maybe that I'm over here in a warm house. And just that whole dissonance for many of our residents has been a challenge, but also really real, and really proud of our staff for being able to hold that tension right outside our doors with our residents and exploring, what does this all mean for you?
Yeah, they've done an amazing job. So what are some of the victories we experienced in 2023? I think there's definitely some human victories here, as you talked about, kind of overcoming some of those personal struggles, but what are some of the other ones that we experienced this year?
Well, now in the end of December of 2023, I'm feeling really good about some of the staff members that we have attracted. And I would say there's a handful of new staff members that have been a shot in the arm to us. And morale was a little bit low there for a while because we were so low in numbers, and that's building up quickly. And a lot of it has to do with, I think, just this perspective of some newness and some transition. And like I said earlier, we're only as good as our staff and how smart and aware and mature they are. And we've got a really good new wave of staff members in some pretty crucial roles.
Yeah, it's been fun to welcome on some new staff this year as well. Special shout out to Jadan, our development operations specialist. She joined this summer and she's been a joy to work with. And there's many examples of that throughout our organization, right? Not just in development, but in the houses themselves. So I'm just so grateful as well.
Another highlight to me this past year was, and speaking to the funding, we had a couple of corporate golf tournaments.
Those were fun.
That these were businesses that chose us to be the benefactors because they saw the good work we were doing in the city to their golf tournaments. So they would raise money unto us. These weren't our golf tournaments. They were businesses asking if they could raise money for us. And that's a pretty easy yes, especially when we were in some need there. But it makes me think, what a great way for a local business to show support for an organization that's boots on the ground in the city, engaged in the city's effort for transformation. So maybe this is a little bit of a plug out there, but I think we're really open to the idea of businesses or outside groups, whether it's a church or a book group or a Bible study, finding ways to support the work that we're doing in your own way, in a way that makes sense in your real life.
Right.
So that was kind of an interesting experience for us this year, was having those golf tournaments kind of pop up as opportunities for us that we had not really sought.
That's right. So if you're watching this and you enjoy golfing, or you're connected to a golfing community, and you want to host a fundraiser of some sort, or you could do like a marathon golf like 100 holes or something, or you could just do a big event, let us know. We'd love to be the beneficiaries of that. But there's also other things, like one of our church partners, our friends, did a VBS this summer, and they designated Providence Network as the beneficiaries of like their programming. And so they had a whole week of VBS, Vacation Bible School. And each day we shared a little bit about Providence Network, and then the kids could bring in donations and raise several $100s for us. And it was just a blessing to be on the receiving end of that as well. It's also just a huge encouragement. So there's lots of ways to partner with us financially, and certainly however you're made to kind of flourish and fundraise.
Yeah, I think we see ourselves as all part of the body. And we may be doing things as the hands or the feet in the city that others outside of the city may not have the opportunity to come in and do all the other parts of the body. But certainly finding ways to financially support us in your own community is a great way to be part of the body, I believe.
Right, and that's wonderful. And if you want to just invest directly through donating or joining the table, that's a great option as well. So we looked backward, celebrated some of the victories, recognized some of the challenges. Where are we headed in 2024 and beyond? Obviously we're on this side of things, but as you kind of look forward to some of the themes that we're going to encounter next year, what are you thinking about?
Well, I think I go back to the start, which is the city is in the greatest time of need that I've seen ever. So how can we step into that, given what we're good at, given our principles and values that we've been consistent on over the years? How do we maybe become agile and flexible to provide our services in a way that still relies on the consistency of our principles and values? And I really think a vision for the upcoming year is Providence Network is going to excel at being in that intersection of Christ-centered community and best practices. So I think that's sort of the vision for the next year.
Yeah, we have a great team to help us get there. Shout out to Amy Corbin, our new deputy director, and transitioning from Karen, and all the other team members that we brought on this year as well. So that intersection of best practices and being faith-centered, I think, is awesome. I'm excited to be a part of that. Why do you think donating to Providence Network is a good investment?
What's the ROI on Providence Network?
Return on investment, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with our long-standing presence in the city. We're not going anywhere. This is a stable investment. I think our long-term results show a wise investment. Like I said, there's a lot of efforts in the city right now to do kind of the urgent care of the homeless, and we certainly see that those brothers and sisters that are doing that as part of the body, and we're kind of focusing on that next stage of recovery, and so there are long-term results as part of our goals. I think, our ability to be agile and flexible during times of new types of need, I think shows a good return. And then there's just the practical. I mean, we talk about the figure that On average, the chronically homeless are costing the city around $70,000 a year. When you add up all the public costs of emergency room visits, detox stays, legal troubles, and the truth is it costs us about $10,000 a year per resident, and the long-term benefits on that. I mean, that right there as a cost comparison is pretty simple.
It's pretty astounding, honestly. And I believe it's a good investment as well, right? I put my own dollars back into Providence Network because I believe in this mission, right? I believe in what we're doing. And I do believe it's a good return on investment. And so, I don't believe anyone will regret putting their funding into our programming, into our people, and ultimately into enabling lasting change. Because I think that's what all this programming is meant to do. This casework, the counseling, the 24 live-in staff, the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week live-in staff, the facilities, right? We have 6 properties. And they're places where people can truly feel safe, to feel loved, and begin to process some of those internal changes that they want to work on. And we're here to come alongside them and do that. So it's a joy to be a part of it. Last question as we close out our time, and then we're going to call Jadan in to help us think about donating. What are some ways we can pray for you, for Providence Network, for the city as we think about these things?
I do lay bare the city and the needs of the city. It breaks my heart, and my head is still trying to figure out ways that we can play a critical role in that. So pray for our city. I think we're entering a time of transition as an organization. I think you mentioned it. One of our long-standing all-stars, Karen Houston, has been our deputy director almost 20 years.
Wow.
And she's retiring, and that feels a little bit scary for some of us. But also feel like we are in good hands. Karen's been very involved in hiring her successor, Amy Corbin, and Amy stepping in and already doing a great job. And so, but it is, sure, I mean, an organization that's grown a lot over the years and has grown under a lot of her leadership. We're just going to be in a time of transition for a while. So,
all right. Well, let's pray for Providence Network in this time of transition as we head into 2024. We don't know what it brings, but we're trying to take a healthy posture and a good posture to get us where we need to go. And thank you for your leadership, Derek, and for sitting down for conversation.
Happy to do so.
All right. Well, awesome. And I'm going to bring Jadan in now to help us finish out, to help us close. And while she steps in, I want to say that if you're watching and you want to learn more about Providence Network, you could visit providencenetwork.org. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There's not very many people on Twitter that follow us, but we're on there. LinkedIn, YouTube, these are all fun places to follow us. Also, I would love to give you a tour of our sites, of our homes. So if you're interested in that, you could email me at development@providencenetwork.org. And we would love to set that up. Hi, Jadan.
Hi, Jonathan.
Jadan Anderson is our awesome, wonderful development operations specialist. So she is working behind the scenes to help get donations in, to make sure that anyone that gives over $250 gets the homeless contribution tax credit. If they want that, the HCTC. You're writing thank you notes. You're just doing a variety of things. Really appreciate your work here.
I love being here.
All right. Well, Jane's going to help us finish out with just some ways that you can partner with Providence Network, ways you can donate. So what did you come up with
Sure.
your list?
I have a list here written in pen. The first way, and in some ways the most effective way, only because we can decide how to distribute your dollar, is donate in cash. And you can do that 2 different ways: via our online giving form at providencenetwork.org/donate, or you can mail in a check and you would address that to Providence Network. You can attention development, And do you want me to say the address?
Sure.
Okay, that's 801 North Logan Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. That's our Providence House
You
location.
got it memorized. You can find that on the website too.
It's like I work in
It's like
development.
you work in development.
Additionally, if you wanted to try to donate stock, you can donate stock also through the same online giving form. You would just select the donate stock option. And we recently sent out a mailing about that, so make sure to check your inboxes if you're interested. You can also spread the news. Jonathan calls this donating awareness. But I think the idea is that we know there are many people in our Denver community who also care about the causes of people who are homeless or drug addicted or were experiencing domestic violence, and really want to find a way to help but don't know how. And so you could do both them and us a favor by connecting us. So
Be a bridge. We talked a lot about that.
Be a bridge, yes.
Today.
Or you can choose to join our monthly giving community called The Table. Jonathan has also phrased this as like receiving monthly donations is like receiving monthly encouragements for our organization. Did I miss anything? You can donate a car.
You could donate a car. We have a partnership with Hands of the Carpenter, and you could donate a car to them, and it does benefit us. So there's a variety of different ways, and you could reach out to development@providencenetwork.org if you have other ideas. We talked about fundraising, like hosting a fundraising event. You could also host a social media fundraising event. So you could post a picture of us, and you could click us as one of the designations and say, hey, for my birthday, donate your birthday, right? For my birthday, donate to Providence Network. So there's a variety of ways to benefit us. Inviting people to like the channel, the YouTube channel or the Facebook page. Inviting people to opt into the Providence Post, our monthly email newsletter.
Yes.
And then if you've seen our properties, you could bring a friend down to one of them to see it and do a group tour. So lots of different ways to be involved. And especially as we end the year, I would ask you to consider giving financially, whether that's a one-time end-of-year gift or a couple times throughout the year or once a month. Every single dollar makes a difference. So thank you for your consideration in that. All right, I think, unless there's anything else you want to say.
I think I'm good here.
All right, I think we're good. Hey, special thank you to Jamie Rosenberry, our case manager, for this interview, for just sticking around. So that's the first half of this video if you're just tuning in. And on the second half of this live stream, I interviewed Derek Kuykendall, our executive director. Thank you, Derek, for coming and sitting in. And thank you, Jadan, for finishing us out.
Happy I could be here, Jonathan.
All right. Well, have a wonderful day. Merry Christmas. And thanks for being part of Providence Network.